Good evening, everybody. Alan Printup for This Truth. This is the week in review today on Friday, November 14th, almost halfway through the month. Thanksgiving is almost here. And what's that mean? Yes, Christmas decorations are already out in the stores. They were out in October. We couldn't even make it to Halloween. It gets earlier and earlier every year. But now we're not going to talk about the holiday shopping season, which is stressful for everybody. In Southwest Florida, it's a busy time of year for me. A lot of people coming down here for winter vacations. Our part-time residents have already started coming back in. I've got 5 neighbors that are already back in town. And every week this month, I've got a different client from a different area in the country coming in looking for property. Um, and we haven't even got to the busy season yet. We're just preheating in real estate. So we are going to talk about some of the happenings and discussions concerning real estate this week, as well as some other key items. I'm not going to hit every detail, everything that's happened over this week, just because it's a lot of noise. Our news cycles, our politics is a lot of noise, and the noise is what irritates me the most. So the shutdown is over. President Trump signed the bill to reopen the government. I'm glad that it came to an end. I don't think it should have ever happened. I think there's measures that we can put in place to make sure it doesn't happen. Unfortunately, Congress gets their check while everybody else doesn't, just due to statutory items within the Constitution that allows them to continue getting paid. They should be the first ones to not get paid, in my opinion. But I don't make the rules, I don't make the laws. But as a voting American in this great republic, I get to have an opinion. So, why did the government shutdown happen? Why does it sustain the length of time that it did? And what can we do going forward to prevent it from happening? Government shutdowns happen too often. Continuing resolutions happen too often. I did hear on the news, it was being reported that the Democrats wanted additional subsidies, well, an extension to the COVID era subsidies, which were meant to be a temporary measure, to the disastrous ACA. And I've got a lot to say about the ACA. And the Republicans, all they wanted was just to keep the funding as it was already written in the budget, just continue that out until they got through finish up the appropriations process. Democrats didn't want that. They had a laundry list of items that they wanted. Most talked about was the subsidies, the continuation of temporary subsidies. To me, it doesn't look like any of the reasons that they had were actually legitimate. The Democrats were putting it on the Republicans. They were, holding Americans hostage and allowing them to starve and miss paychecks and jeopardize the safety and blah, 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 blah. That wasn't what it was, because it was being talked about that the Democrats were more than likely going to vote to reopen the government after the No Kings protest. Well, that didn't happen. But 2 days after several key local elections throughout the country, they decided to reopen the government. The Democrats, 8 of them decided to break caucus and vote with the Republicans. And I commend them for that. That was a hard decision. I know it was. They probably got a lot of pressure from their peers for what could be viewed as capitulating to Trump, or being a traitor to the party or whatever. Democrats are nasty. The Republicans are nasty. Politics is nasty. So I can only imagine what all they had to endure from their colleagues in their party. And it gets kicked the can down the road. Yeah, SNAP benefits got funded through the next fiscal year. We should have a provision that if appropriations aren't done and we need to do a CR, that, certain functions of the government should remain being paid, Congress not being one of them. Our TSA needs to continue being paid, military needs to continue being paid, and the SNAP and WIC benefits need to continue being paid. Those are some key points. Unfortunately, you can't pay the postal workers, the park rangers, and everybody else, or put something together that, if appropriations are completed by X deadline, that it's going to automatically roll into a CR. Nobody gets to add anything. Nobody gets to take anything away. It's an automatic extension, 30-day extension. And you can do that X amount of times, 2 times, 3 times, whatever. That would help stave off, because it seems like our government too often cannot get it together and get appropriations process completed on time, which is poor job performance to me. If I was a CEO and those were my department heads and my divisional presidents, and they could not get their job completed on time, continually, regularly, I would be looking for replacements. And that's how we should look at that. You and me, the American people, we're the boss. We control who goes in and who comes out. And if Congress can't get it done, they need to come out. We need to put a whole new team in. Just like you're coaching high-level basketball. If you 5 can't get it done, I'll bench all 5 of you and put the next 5 in. So you better get it done. Unfortunately, that's not how our government system works. And it's a damn shame. It really is. Subpar performance. We keep voting them in. Or you keep voting them in, or somebody else keeps voting them in. I'm a performance-minded person, personally and professionally and politically. If you can't hack it, you can't get it done, you can't get it done. It's time to make a change. And too many American people keep voting in people that don't really do anything for them. Me being from Memphis, there's a certain person in Washington that's been over one of the hardest low-income areas of Memphis, and that area has not improved in my entire life. But they're still getting voted in each and every election cycle. Why? Doesn't make sense. That area's not getting better. Oh, and another thing, I hate to jump around, but on congressional pay, maybe our representatives should get the average of the district that they serve. If the average in that district is $50,000, well, they get $50,000 a year. Maybe that would help them, improve their own districts if they were getting paid the average of their district. Maybe that would work. And same thing with senators; they get the average of their state. So there's things that can be done, but Congress isn't going to do something to disincentivize them or cut their pay. And it's like, I'm for term limits. They're not going to vote themselves out of a job. Now, if term limits was voted in to date, yeah, we're going to lose some good people in government. We are going to lose some good people. We're going to lose some bad people too. But we need fresh ideas coming in. We don't need persons sitting there for 40 years. Now, I've never aligned with Nancy Pelosi. She announced her resignation, retirement, what have you. I applaud her for that. Look, she's had a long run. 39 years in government, that's too long. She's had a long professional life. At her age, 84, 85 years old, it's beyond time to sit down. It really is. At some point, it's time to hang up the cleats. And yeah, and I was talking with somebody today. It's like, our government should be filled with nothing but Gen X and millennials. That's who should be there. We shouldn't have anybody, from an era beyond Gen X. Because if term limits were in place, that wouldn't happen. We wouldn't have anybody older than Gen X in there. And we need people in our government that are more in tune with the times. And that's not That's not a lot of the people in there. Now, we got some people in there that are in their 50s. Yeah, no, that's Gen X. No, they have some relevance that they understand. But I'm not trying to be an ageist that, hey, you're too old to be in government. No, absolutely not. If you can do the job, you can do the job. But when you've got a large swaths of the government that are been there for 40 years and that are in their 70s and 80s, it's time to, we need some new blood. And in any organization that happens, you get stale if you have the same leadership for too long. You get stale. You gotta switch it out, keep it fresh, to keep everything moving forward. So the shutdown's over, and the Democrats, were on record using SNAP as a leverage point for them to try to get what they wanted from the Republicans. It's a big game of chicken. The Democrats blinked. First one that blinks loses. And I know there's people that are upset with the Democrats that they didn't stand up and fight hard enough. There's people on the other side, the Republican side, that are pissed off that the Democrats shut down the government, and they're both pointing fingers at each other. So Schumer shut down. It's a Trump shutdown. It's a government shutdown. It's Congress. Two wings of the same bird. So it's back open. We need to get things in place to kind of prevent that, or just so like ATC, the military, SNAP, that all continues to get paid. But Congress, yeah, they need to lose their check if they can't keep the government open. If our deficit is beyond a certain percentage of GDP, they should be ineligible for re-election. There's all kind of things that we should be able to do to hold Congress to account. But Congress is not going to do that to themselves. And that's the unfortunate thing. We can't make the rules without Congress. Congress has got to make the rules, and they're not going to do anything that's going to hurt themselves or limit their ability or make it more difficult to line their own pocket through fraud and just general grift. So I know that was a big topic this week, followed behind with Nancy Pelosi. Recently, there was an email or a series of emails from Jeffrey Epstein trying to connect President Trump with abuse in the Jeffrey Epstein circle. The name was redacted, but it was quickly found out that was recycled news. That email was from 2011. Yeah, 15 years ago nearly. And that victim had given depositional testimony that President Trump was never improper when she was around him. I don't know who to believe. I wasn't there. But the young lady's name is Virginia. She gave a testimonial, deposition. It's under oath that he wasn't there. Now she can't go and recant it. She's no longer with us. She's dead. So we keep circling back to releasing the Epstein files. The Democrats, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in 2019. So they had information on Epstein prior to 2019. Okay. So he was arrested and charged in 2019. The case was built against him by the FBI. 2020, we had an election. So a year later, there was an election. And for the entire Biden-Harris administration, nothing happened. Not a damn thing. Files weren't released. Nothing was talked about. It was not there. But it's come up so much this past year. Why didn't the Biden Justice Department release those files? Why didn't they take down any more people? Why was it pushed in a dark corner of a secret closet deep inside the FBI, so deep that it was very difficult for our current FBI to find the damn files? And now they want it to be released, but why didn't they release it? Why? It's a curious question. And when it comes to politics, we have to ask questions about motivation. Politics is about timing and leverage and the upper hand, because everybody wants to be reelected and each party wants a control of all three branches, including a supermajority within Congress. So it's all about positioning, posturing. It's a lot, like I said at the beginning, it's a whole lot of noise. Like George Carlin said once in one of his stand-up, it's all bullshit and it's bad for you. He wasn't wrong. Just grade A American red, white, and blue bullshit. There are facts in there, but it's covered up by a whole lot of noise. Whole lot of noise. I think that the Democrats are bringing up the Epstein files to detract attention, deflect, and draw attention away from something else. That's why they did that. That just loosely ill-executed recycling of old stuff. Old stuff. Here's my theory on the Epstein files. I think the people that are going to be found in these files, I think the information is going to be so damning is that it's going to upend. It could upend countries. It could upend systems. Because I think there's heads of state. I think there's royalty. I think there's other high-level politicians, not just American, but across the globe. Oligarchs, I'm not saying that meaning just Russians. I'm just talking about uber wealthy people from whatever country. I think, whether it's industry CEOs and hedge funds execs, I don't know. But I think it's got a lot of big top level people, government affiliated and non-government affiliated, that are going to be found to be involved in this. And it's going to create a lot of problems worldwide, which is why I think it's not coming out. And it'll probably be 75 years before it comes out. Look how far it is after the JFK and MLK assassinations. We don't have all of that either. No one's talking about that JFK was shot by his driver. Nobody's talking about that. And even when the magic bullet theory came out, 32 turns, one bullet, no, that's bullshit. So, same thing with Charlie Kirk. There's a whole lot of noise around that. I've shot many deer with a 30-06. That wasn't a 30-06. 30-06 at 500 yards would have done more damage than that. If that was a 30-06, it would have damn near taken his head off. It would have exploded his neck. It would have just blew it apart. I've seen what 30-06 does at 150 yards. That wasn't a 30-06. Definitely wasn't from the front either. Not a 30-06. But I'm not in part of the Charlie Kirk investigation. Candace Owens is doing a fantastic job on that. Let her go. Another thing that's come up in the past couple of weeks is Mark Levin's criticism of Tucker Carlson, saying not nice things. We're all entitled to our opinion. I get it. And Mark Levin, as smart as he is and as much respect as I have for him, he's one of the reasons why I cannot sign up to be a Republican. He represents the extreme right. Years ago, I used to listen to him, just like I listen to a lot of people on the radio. But I can't listen to those people. They're too damn far extreme. I'd rather listen to Stephen A. Smith than listen to Mark Levin. I really would, because Stephen A. Smith, he's an independent like me. He's more on the, on the Democrat side. I'm more on the conservative side. But Stephen A. kind of see more eye to eye than me and Mark Levin. Now, Mark Levin's been involved in, politics at different levels since the Reagan administration, and he's a very smart guy in the world of politics. But he's on the extreme side. I've got nothing but respect for him. I do. Super smart. I've got respect for Tucker Carlson. I do. Smart guy. He's got a weird laugh. Yeah, but who doesn't? So I don't think Mark Levin should be doing what he's doing to Tucker Carlson. I really don't. I don't think it's right. Um, but the shutdown, I'm glad it's over. Let's see if they can get something done by January 30th. Another thing out in the news is about 50-year mortgages. A couple, 2 or 3 years ago, there was talk in the lending community, because my lenders that I partner with were telling me about conversations that are happening within the industry about a 40-year mortgage. That never came about. It didn't. 50-year mortgage, and I'm looking at it. I ran, some numbers a couple days ago, and 50-year mortgage, I don't think's the answer. I don't. And here's why. In my area of Southwest Florida, I used a common price point of 400 grand on a conventional 20% down loan. And I ran it just on a normal 30, and then I took the same interest rate, ran it on a 50. Now, the savings on the monthly payment, usually when you have longer term, you have higher interest. So I use the same interest, so I don't know how it's going to be modeled. I haven't seen anything. So I took that interest rate, applied it on a 50-year term, and I did it with several different price points, but 400, and just speaking loosely, is about a 15, a 12% savings on the monthly payment, because it was about 2,000. It was down by 250. Yeah, so about a 12%, reduction in monthly payment. Now that reduction in monthly payment, would vary depending on where that interest rate came in at. And then on the totality of the loan, on 50 years, a $400,000 loan, it was like 6% and change. I'd use the national average on the day that I was doing it. It was just over 1,050,000. It was like 1,059,000. So we're looking at a 2.5 plus X by the end of the loan term. Now, it is highly uncommon for somebody to buy a house and keep it 50 years. The normal life cycle in Southwest Florida, whether it's Sarasota or Naples, anywhere in between, we're looking at 5 to 7 years. And going at 7 years, yeah, there's some equity, as long as we're appreciating at 4%, and our values are also going up too. Right now, yeah, we're still appreciating, but the values are going down because we're coming out of that big spike from COVID, post-COVID. So the values are higher than what they should be if COVID had never happened. So there's a little bit of equity at 30 years on a 30-year model at 7 years, provided everything is going up and to the right. Up and to the right, maybe that way for you, or is it this way? I don't know. At 50 years, there's even less. So if there happens to be a market downturn and you don't appreciate as much, or it goes up for a couple of years and the next couple of years it goes down, you might end up flat or losing money or having to come out of pocket to sell your house in 7 years. So I don't really think 50-year mortgage is going to be the answer. I think the answer lies into amortization. That's where I think we need to focus our energy. We need to reform amateurization. If you're not familiar with amateurization, whatever the principal balance is, the amount of interest, your interest rate times that principal balance divided by 12, that's your interest payment for that year. So you pay the entire interest of the principal in one calendar year. And you're going to pay a little principal too. The next year, your principal balance goes down a little bit, times your interest rate. That's your interest payment every month. Then, then a little bit more principal. You're paying a little bit more principal per month than the previous year, and so on and so forth. So, on a 30-year loan at a 6.6% and change interest rate, where you're looking at nearly double around the loan amount, it still doesn't make sense. Now, 6% historically is not a bad rate. It's not. 6.35 is not a bad rate. I know people that, I just had somebody with an 840 credit score get 6.375 interest rate back in July or June. So it's not uncommon. I had people getting, around that same rate 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I bought my very first house in 2000. My rate was somewhere around there. And I've always had, near 800 credit. So amortization, I think, is what we need to look at, not term. I don't think we need to look at the term. Perhaps changing, if we changed from 100% of interest per annum to like 75% interest per annum, that's going to cut into the bank's profits. I think that would be a better way to alleviate some of the pains. But the pains go much more beyond mortgages. It's electric bills, it's gas bills, fuel for the vehicle, clothes, groceries, you name it. Everything's more expensive than it should be. It's the way of the world. We created this monster with a credit-based society, and we reached the limit of it. So it's time for the entire world to tighten its belt to shrink it back down to size. Nobody can handle any more payments of any kind. We've milked that cow for all she's got. And going back to a cash-based society is not logical. So we have to cut interest payments. And how it's calculated, I think that would help. Raising taxes is not going to help. And we can segue this right into the ACA. The ACA, I know it helps some people, but the ACA is a failing program. It needs to die. It needs to go away. It really does. It's not self-sustainable. It's not. We've got to pull. We run deficits every year, but even before the ACA, we run deficits. Now we're running a larger deficit and adding to our debt even more because it's not a self-sustainable system. Now, if it was able to sustain itself, that the amount of people paying into it exceeded the amount of money getting subsidized, and it was running in the black, I would say yes. But there's no way that program is going to be in the black. It's going to run in the red, and that it is. And you'll hear Republicans say that the money's going straight to the insurance companies. Yeah, kind of is. Trump said, "Hey, let's just give it to the people and put it into account. They can only use it for health care as a credit. They directly control it, and we let them decide." Hell, that makes a lot of damn sense. I like that more than the other way. Think about it. It gives the people the freedom to choose what plan to buy with that money, what insurance to buy with that money. Makes a lot of sense. And I've given an anecdotal story about how I did an experiment. I went to a private company, got a quote for $450 a month, and I went to the ACA and got a quote for $725. The ACA had higher deductibles, higher out of pocket than the private plan. I'm like, why would I pay more? Why would I pay more? $275 more. Why would I pay $275 more a month in insurance when I don't have to? That's why I say the ACA is not sustainable. More and more companies are going to get back onto private plans and get away from the ACA. And it's just going to be a big drain on the country. SNAP and WIC, we need to take a look at that. That needs to get reformed. There's too easy to get it, too easy to keep it. If you're able-bodied to support yourself, you should be out there doing just that. The rest of us do it. We don't do it because we want to pay for you. We want to do it because we're trying to improve our own lives. And the more people that pull from the system, disincentivize people that put into the system. Because if we had less people pulling on the system, we might not have to pay as much tax, which is why Doge is in there, trying to find the waste, fraud, and abuse. Too many hands in the cookie jar. Shouldn't be any hands in the cookie jar. However many billions are to go to one thing, every bit of it should go to the end user, not to NGOs in between, and only 30% or 40% or 50% ending up over there. Just like Ukraine, 160 billion, they only got 75 of it. Where's the other 85 billion? It disappeared. NGOs, hands in the cookie jar. Yeah, but the ACA is dead. It needs to go away. There's nothing we can do to fix it. It's got a bad framework. It needs to be redone from the ground up. And the only way that it's going to be self-sustainable if it doesn't have subsidies. Now, we've got subsidy programs out there that are not sustainable. The USDA's got a mortgage thing in there. We've got Section 8. So, we've got other subsidy programs. But anything that's subsidized, if it's not sustainable, it's got to go away. It doesn't make sense. When you look at it from a business perspective, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't. They can go to the county health department and see somebody there, base it off of their income, and let the county handle it. Government doesn't need to be in the business of healthcare. They don't need to be in education either. So, what do you think? Your comments, your thoughts. I like talking to people that don't see things the same way as me. Maybe I can learn something. I love being educated. I like being told that I'm wrong, and I want to hear why. So, sound off. Let me know your thoughts, your comments. And just go out there and be a good human to everybody. And speaking of which, I had some clients in from Wisconsin today. I'm showing them around different areas of a couple different cities so they don't know where they want to buy. And they asked me, why Southwest Florida? What drew me here? Why do I like it here? I'm from Memphis, Tennessee, Northwest Mississippi. Vibe and energy. And plus, I like multiculturalism. I like being around people that are not like me because I like learning new things. I like learning new things about different cultures. I like trying new foods, hearing new music. It's exciting for me. And I'm all about good energy and treating people properly and being a good human being. And this seems like there's more people here doing that than in Memphis, Tennessee. Sorry, Memphis, love you, but you suck. And that's it. Just be a good human being. That's all I ask. And that's my challenge to you this week. Be a good human being. I'm Alan Prentitt with This Truth. Thank you and good night.